All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us again for another Great Money Monday. Our goal always is to help you find the information and have the tools to create your own journey to financial independence. And so today we're going to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that women make about finances. I'm quite sure you're going to look at the list and say, wait, I can come up with 10 or 20. But we're just going to talk about the top 5 today. And that's going to be enough to kind of get us started. And so we have a phenomenal speaker with us today. And really and truly, as you all already know, our speakers are coming with great gems. If you leave and you don't have something actionable that you can take with you, it means you need to watch it again. And so today we have April Murdaugh, who is a financial advisor at Woman to Woman Financial in Jacksonville, Florida. So her weather is much better than mine today. Her practice helps women and their families create and grow generational wealth. That is always a key, and we hold so much of the money power. She is a passionate about financial literacy, has taught financial education programs in churches, libraries, and private organizations in both South Carolina and Florida. In 2015, she founded a nonprofit organization, the Economic Empowerment Center, dedicated to providing financial education for high school and college students. So many of us might have avoided some of the problems and mistakes that we did if we had some of these programs in our high school, and especially in college when all those credit card people were, free t-shirt, credit card. Her signature workshop, The 5 Biggest Mistakes Women Make with Money, outlines the many financial struggles she's had managing her finances to help eliminate the stigma and shame many women feel about their financial situation in hopes of getting them to act. So April has a background as a college administrator and full-time professor of business, finance, and logistics. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree from St. John's University, a Master of Science degree from Southern Wesleyan University, and a Doctor of Education from Nova Southeastern University. She is a programs chair for the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors in Jacksonville, Florida, a member of the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce, a board member of the Professional Women's Circle Council of Jacksonville, a board member of Women Business Owners of Northern Florida, an advisory board member of the Barco Newton YMCA, and president of the American Business Women's Association in Orange Park. So without further ado, I want to turn things over to April. Give us those gems.
Hey, how is everyone tonight? Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen, and I know I pray that tonight you guys find value out of what I'm going to share with you tonight. I am, like she said, a financial advisor, an investment advisor, and my whole goal is to really educate, empower, and encourage women when it comes to managing money and creating their financial futures. So a little bit about myself. I know she, talked a lot about me in the beginning, but I am a single mom. I have 3 children. In 2011, not too long ago, I was homeless. I lived in a shelter here in Jacksonville, partly because I have lost everything 3 times. I went through a divorce. I was widowed, and people kept foreclosing, and I found myself living in a shelter in 2011. And out of that experience, along with others, I have become very passionate as an educator when it comes to managing one's money. And in my practice and in my personal life, I've seen so many things happen when it comes to money. And I'm going to talk today about the biggest mistakes. So we're going to count down. The 5th biggest mistake, I'm going to tell you a story. I have this really, really good friend, and she and we worked at the same location. A little bit later, after I got my doctorate, I left, but she continued to work at the same university. And I don't know if anyone's ever worked for a clown, a boss, but she had a boss that was an idiot. I hate to say that. And every day we would talk about him, and I believe that she deserved his position. And lo and behold, long story short, they offered her the job after he decided to resign, as he should have. And she was very excited. We were both single moms. We had 3 children. It was like we were sisters from another mother, and we had 3 children. And we weren't yet at 6 figures at that time, but we were really excited about our future. And she got her first position and offered the job from her boss, and they offered her the position, and it was a really good six-figure salary. She was so excited. We called, we're jumping up and down, we're screaming and hollering, we're really excited about the move and the change in income and the increase in income. And then we realized something. We realized something that she did not do. And this is the fifth mistake that most women do, is they lack confidence, or they do not negotiate. So when we're talking about the fifth biggest mistake, it is not negotiating. And when I look at it, 31%, and I believe it's on another scribe, 31% do not negotiate. They don't want to be pushy. They're not sure of their worth. They're scared of losing their job, and they don't know how. Actually, there's a statistic out that says women leave $500,000 on the table over their lifetime because they do not negotiate. And the caveat to that is, the reason why they don't negotiate is because they lack the financial self-confidence. So if I was to go back, more men than women are likely to be engaged in the market. So that has to do with a lot of self-confidence. If we look at the self-confidence index for men, it is 1, and for women, it's -10. So you ask a woman how confident she feels about her future, about her finances, that's the statistic based on the Spectrum survey. Women actually rate themselves as not very knowledgeable or not knowledgeable at all, while men, they could know not too much, but they say that they're very knowledgeable or fairly knowledgeable. It's like that saying, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it. A man will apply for a position if he only knows half of what the job entails, but a woman feels like she needs to know 100% or have been experienced in 100% of what the job calls for. Same type of deal. So the fifth mistake is not negotiating, i.e. not having the financial self-confidence that we need. The fourth biggest mistake, when clients meet with me as an advisor, I always call it the financial GYN appointment. I know it sounds crazy, but for my ladies can understand how sensitive this is, and you kind of got to bear all in these meetings. And so I ask them to bring everything they possibly can: bank statements, investment statements, credit card debt, everything that they may have, all of their expenses to my office so that I can learn more about where they are. And I had a client come in and do that, and she literally brought in envelopes that were closed, that had not been opened, that had been stamped on for a year ago, just still from different investment companies. And so we started opening those envelopes, and we found out that all the time she worked on a job for 3 years on one particular investment, and she only had $1,100 in the account. And she didn't understand what happened and why. The fourth mistake is avoiding it. See, she never opened the envelopes. She never checked her accounts. She just put her money in there. She never watched the way things went. She never had conversations. She did some of what she was told to do, but she didn't watch it good enough or have anyone helping her understand what was going on. And what she thought she should have had, she didn't have. And the reason why we avoid it is because it seems so overwhelming. You know, on average, women make right now 80 cents for every dollar a man makes. Actually, it went up 2 cents. Just lately, it's 82 cents as of 2021. So we have gone up 2 cents. But 80% of women, or 8 out of 10, don't discuss money with anybody. So this group is so phenomenal. The fact that we can share and have these types of dialogues is so awesome. And I encourage this, and I'm so glad that Rosalind is doing something like this, because we don't have these open discussions. And because we don't have the confidence that we need. So instead of doing something, anything, we avoid it. We close our eyes to it. We don't pay attention to it. I think we think that there's some magic that's going to happen to help us figure it out, and it just doesn't work like that. But in my world, the fourth mistake that I see is that women avoid managing their money or talking with anyone. The third biggest mistake is, I have a relative who eventually became a single parent. She was married and then wound up raising her 2 children on her own. And in doing so, she had to work 2 jobs to take care of them. And you know, if anyone on here is a parent, whether you have a child or you have a fur baby that you take care of, you always want to give them the best. You want to give them the spa shampoos if they go to the fur baby spa. If it's your children, you always want them to have better than you have, access to education, a decent or more decent place to live, those things. And so that's what she did. She worked 2 jobs. She made sure that her children went to private school because where they lived, the education system was not the best. They went to K through 12 private school. Then they went to private college, and she worked and she took out loans and she did everything she needed to do. And now she is 65 years old. She's an educator, like most of my family members are, and she can never retire, ever. Her conversation is she will die at her desk. In fact, because of the sacrifice that she made, they are taking half of her paycheck to pay off the student loans that she took out to help her children go to school. The third biggest mistake is planning for your kids' college before your own retirement. So, I know people don't like me when I say this, but at the end of the day, the question you have to ask yourself is, if you have children, do you want to live with them in your old age? If you have children, do you want them to be responsible for your caregiving, your long-term care, all of that? Those are questions I don't think we ask because we are so concerned with, yes, making sure they get a good education, give them the best, whether it's the best clothes or access to the best education. We tend to do that at our expense. And so the reasons a lot of women do this is they don't want their children to be in debt. And I can attest to that. I have 3 children that have gone to college, and I didn't want them to be in debt. But I had to make sure that I could pay at what my level was so that I didn't risk my financial future. In fact, right now, there was a Wall Street Journal article some years ago that said 86 billion in student loan debt is owned by Americans aged 60 and over in 2017, which means if the parents didn't take out the debt for the children, then we've got grandparents doing that too. So there's a constant cycle because we want our children to have the best at our expense. Again, a 161% rise in total student loan debt for those aged 60 and over from 2010 to 2017. And I don't know if anyone understands this or knows this, but if Social Security is around when you retire, and if you have this type of debt and you have not been taking care of it, it will definitely impact your Social Security benefits. So planning for your children before planning for you is a no-no. Even if you have to put a little bit away for you, you are just as important. I have a daughter who's a fashion designer, wanted to go to school in LA. And when she finished her 2-year school that I could pay for, and I couldn't pay for LA. My money cannot leave the state of Florida. It literally gets to the Florida state line and stops. It does not expand that far. And I tried to make her understand that. And then she didn't. She felt she did well. And I promised her that I would send her to another school. And so I said, no problem. We can do California. Look up the school, get us tickets, book us a flight. No problem. Let's go check it out. I said, but I need you to promise me this. When you become the Vera Wang of the fashion industry, I need to be able to move in with you. I need you and your husband to make sure I have a mother-in-law suite or house just like I have. And I need you to upgrade my car because by the time all is said and done, I'm going to need a newer car. And I want the bigger, newer car. So if you're committed to doing that, then I'm committed to taking my retirement and putting it and investing it in you. Of course, she was not committed to doing that. And so we had to make other arrangements. And she is down south in Florida as a fashion designer doing her thing on the money that I could afford to pay for her to finish school. So I know this is a sensitive topic, but you come first. It's like the airplane, right? When you're on the plane, the flight, they say before you can help anyone else, you put the mask on yourself and then on your children. Planning for your children's retirement, for your children's college before retirement is the third mistake. The second biggest mistake. So I'm actually a New Yorker. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. and I kind of moved south slowly. My mother moved to South Carolina, and then 7 months later had a stroke. And then I moved down there to care for her and lived there for a number of years and cared for her. And so after she recovered, her and my grandmother bought a home that they owned jointly. And so my grandmother then becomes sick and dies. And then my mother starts becoming ill again. And because I was caring for her, I decided, okay, we need to go ahead, sell this house. It's too much expense on her. She needs to go into a place that's going to meet her needs a little more, a senior citizen facility. But because she and my grandmother jointly owned this piece of property, there was nothing that I could do with it because there was no will or there was no estate plan. And that is the number 2 mistake I see that women make when it comes to money. I know this is not a direct relationship to money, but I will tell you, not doing that or not having that, the house sat in probate for 13 years. I cannot tell you the amount of money that was lost through attorney's fees trying to get settled this particular estate. The reason why women don't do it is they say, well, 47% say, well, we just haven't gotten around to it. You know, who wants to have those conversations? I'm single. Why do I need an estate? Why do I need a will? Who says that? I say, if you have a pair of shoes that you're going to leave when you die, you need to be able to tell somebody who's going to get those shoes. If not, we're going to have a big problem. You have estate taxes. So those are things that are important, but 29% say they don't have any assets to leave anybody. And that is just totally untrue, but that's what they think. And when you talk about estate planning, doesn't mean you have millions and millions and millions of dollars. It means you have assets, whether they're fixed or they're liquid, that need to go to someone, some charity, and you, for the last time, will have the ability to direct where those things go. 78% of millennials don't have a will, and 64% of Gen Xers do not have a will. So that's the second mistake that I see, especially when we're talking about blended families. And if you have a second spouse and they have children, there is a whole different dynamic when it comes to that. And not having this in place is extremely, it's a problem. The last mistake, or what I would say the biggest mistake, is I got married young. I met the love of my life when I was 17. He went off to the Marines, came back, we got married. At 22 and 23, we had our very first child. She's a girl, and all was well in the world. Then one day, while I was on maternity leave, my husband came home from work, had a headache, and fell dead. Had a brain aneurysm, and after 6 days, he died. He was in a coma. And so I go to his job to kind of figure out what to do. And the lady told me, well, there's nothing we can do because he didn't fill out his enrollment paperwork. He didn't do anything when it came to finances. In fact, we had no health insurance, and I was on maternity leave. The biggest mistake is allowing your spouse or significant other complete financial control. We need to be involved in the finances in our house. You don't have to be a mathematician. All you need to know is how to press some numbers on a calculator. But you need to know what's going to happen if your significant other should die, become disabled, or if you go through a divorce or a separation, even if you're not married, you're common law. You need to know what's going on. Is he paying the mortgage? Are you both paying the mortgage? How will things look? A lot of women that I meet say that their husbands, oh, he handles that. I'm not good with math. You do not have to be good with math. You have to be aware of where you are financially, and you just have to be able to use a calculator. But I see it more times than I like. So that is the biggest mistake that I see women make. And again, it's not just related to marriage. It could be anything. It could be, just trusting your advisor without being digging in. I get a lot of women that come in and go, just do it, just do it, just do it. I don't know. And I don't, You cannot do that. You cannot put your whole financial situation in somebody else's hands. So those are the biggest mistakes that I see that women make with money. They may not all directly correlate to investing mistakes, but I do have I guess, mistake number 1A I want to throw in there real quickly. So a lot of us on this call or on these meetings are very smart, savvy, successful women, and you're doing well for yourself financially. Some of you may be single. Well, one of the things that I encourage women to do is to get a prenup. That is my mistake number 1A. I have a client that met a wonderful man online, and she had a great career that she could work remotely. She liquidated, sold her home, moved to this state, moved in with him with plans of doing big things together, getting a different home, all of those wonderful things. And then the marriage didn't work out. Things were kind of rocky. She calls and she says, I'm getting ready to leave the marriage. She had fixed assets, commercial property. She had other real estate. She had large investments. And I was like, where's the prenup? And she was like, she didn't have one. Immediately sent her to an attorney. And in the state of Florida, it's 30% that they will take of your assets, that he has access to your assets, 30% immediately off the top. So even if they divorce and there's no fighting going on, he has access to 30% of what she walked into the marriage with, because there was no prenuptial agreement. So I know that is a sensitive topic, but that should be one discussed, or you need to understand that should things go south, these are the things, this is how you are exposed as a woman. So that's my 5A or 1A mistake that I would like to add. I do encourage women to, if nothing else, if you're in a relationship, either speak to an attorney, figure out how to put things in a trust or protect it, and let your significant other know what he needs to do as well, because it's very, very important that you understand what you're exposing yourself to. Divorce will make people change. She was loving, she was wonderful, and now they are beasts, and you don't want that to happen to you. So those are the mistakes.
And I'll jump in there too, because your mistake number 1, the allowing your spouse, sometimes it's not even just allowing your spouse, it's if you are 100% the decision maker. And I've shared this a few times about my sister, who was the majority in terms of the person who handled the majority of the finances in her household, had a stroke. And so she's in ICU. And I remember the first thing my brother-in-law said, he said, I don't even know how she paid the bills. So he didn't know what account they came from, where things were. And she was fortunate that her job was like, okay, we'll help you. We can look through these things. They actually put up a donation to pay for childcare and so forth. But it's part of that partnership that both parties
need to be involved
and have that conversation, because if something happens to you, let's say you are in a coma and it's a week, but it could be a month or 2 months. And I had a story. My uncle he always took care of everything for my aunt. My aunt never worked. He took care of everything in the house, bought her card, everything she needed, period. And he had all these insurance policies. He was super on top of things. He got lung cancer. He was sick for months. And during those time periods,
nothing.
$250,000 of insurance policies lapsed. And so went from she would have been set for life to just the simple fact that she didn't know. I'm quite sure some of those envelopes are just sitting in there unopened because she never opened. Like, she didn't need to. There was never anything that she needed. If it was money to get her hair done or to buy clothes or things for the kids, he took care of it all. And in that time period, it went from, we knew he had everything covered, to now we got to, pass the collection plate to get him buried, that kind of thing. And so even those kind of things, those family conversations, and I know we had a post not too long ago about having the conversation about your parents, because anything can happen, and you're sitting there now trying to figure out what they would have wanted.
Yep.
So what your spouse would have wanted, your parent would have wanted. Heck, it might be that your parent, that your spouse made that deal that you talked about with your daughter, and they were like, "Yeah, you can come live with us, mom."
Well, you have no idea.
No, she can't come.
Mm-hmm.
And so those conversations, they're not always easy, but unfortunately they are totally necessary. And if you make them, whether it be the first of the month or the second Tuesday of the month or whatever, if they become so routine that you say, great, we're going to buy pizza and go over finances, it becomes more of a habit and less of an uncomfortable. So where is the money? Have you paid the mortgage? It's not accusatory. It's, this is what we do every single month, every single quarter, whatever it may be. So you don't find, it's countless women that didn't know that their house was being foreclosed.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have a friend whose husband, yeah, wonderful man, just providing everything, but got caught up in a business deal and didn't tell. And 3 weeks before Christmas, they're foreclosing. So yeah, it's extremely important. And you're right. That's why the will and estate plan, an estate plan is not just a will. Is what if something happens to me? How do I handle things? What if I have surgery and yes, I'm comatose or I die, or what's the next step? Where are things? So we have like legacy boxes that I give the ladies that help them divide things up. We're having in May a mother-daughter conversation because there's a lot of tension between mothers and daughters having those financial conversations. Like, Mom, where's the money? Do you know what Dad has? Do you know it? So really trying to make it routine. And I'm teaching ladies, hey, every week, I don't care. I know it's tough. Sit down with a glass of Chardonnay in yourself, if it's you or if it's you and your significant other. And let's just look at this stuff and figure it out and have these, even in dating, conversations. I'm dating someone new now, and we just had a conversation about finances today. Well, how much does he owe? And how much do I owe? And so we're not very transparent about that. And that's the struggle. We'll let somebody else do it, but we love them and we give our hearts and everything else to them, but we won't share that part. So I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
And I think one thing too, I love that you talked about state specific, because so many people aren't aware that things are state specific. So if you fall in love and your love is in X state, talk to a new attorney in that.
Yes.
Or if you get that great job offer and you say, honey, we're going to move to X state, you need to review a number of different things. You need to re-review your estate planning documents. You need to make sure that you're updating those things, because you may move to a state that automatically means you split assets. You're like, oh, wait, I didn't, but we were only married a year. And they like, so that don't matter. You may move to a common law state and you're like, we never got married. So close enough.
Exactly. Oh,
and those are the kind of things that people are like, I didn't know. Or like when you talked about debt, if you don't know that your spouse's debt can be connected to you, that can be an issue, even if they die. They'd be like, yeah, I know he did, but
they're coming for you.
Where is the check?
They're coming for you.
Way I want something. Or maybe they're going after you legally, or if everything is joint. And now they start garnishing these joint checking accounts. And so you're making big money. It's going in the joint checking account. And they put a
lien on that joker.
Like, but that was my money. And they like, no, it's in the joint account.
I hear so many women who get in relationships, marry men, and they may have children of other relationships. They have child support issues. And so they can't even file taxes together, or because whatever they would have received, they take. And so, but having those conversations on the front end is very, very important. That's why the whole control thing, every week or whenever you guys pay your bills, you should be having these discussions. And it should be you both sitting down, doing it together. You need to be very clear on what's going on, what's going in, what's coming in, and what's going out.
Or even what your plans are. Because you may be thinking, we're going to retire early. You're like, I ain't never gonna be able to retire.
Mhm.
Or if you're in that situation where you now have a new husband and you have children from a prior relationship.
Oh,
And so many people don't understand. They're like, no, I meant for my children to have that. Well, if you die, all you have goes to your spouse.
yeah.
And hope and pray that they take care of your children, regardless if they're minors.
Mhm.
And that could be a fight in terms of maybe this man raised your children, but the biological father would have first dibs at his biological children.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's scary. I mean, when you think about it in terms of all the change that a child might go through, and all of a sudden they might be living with this stranger versus the home that they've always had.
Mhm.
Or if you end up with a spouse and they say, yeah, those ain't my kids.
Exactly. Or better yet, like I've had a situation where the wife was put out of the house by the adult children because even we think, oh, well, this is my spouse's home. We live here together. No, 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 no. In that particular state, it was based on the children. So everything went to the children, and they came in and said, well, we want to sell this house. You got to get out. He'd been taking care of her for so many years. So being very open about where you are financially or just in life and having these discussions is so, so very important. Because, and I don't care if you're single. If you're single, all the more, you need to appoint a girlfriend or a good friend of yours to know where I had when I was single and still am. I have a very good friend. They know where my will is. They know where my estate planning documents are. Every couple years, I may update them. I let them know, hey, I've increased this. I'm doing this. So you got to keep them abreast of this stuff, because if not, you will find you. And I see it happen all the time. And I'll be honest, a lot of African American women are not brought up to snuff on this. A lot of my clients are very successful, smart women, have great careers, but just clueless about this. And these are just very basic things, I think, to
And
get.
as a single woman, I mean, more than likely, if you're like me, my mama is my beneficiary, she my power of attorney. But you got to be prepared. Like, my mama technically shouldn't outlive me. So who is my backup?
Mhm.
And so sometimes that's a harder conversation. And if you don't have a girlfriend or a sister or cousin or somebody, if life happens in the way that it's supposed to, my mother should not bury me.
Mhm.
Which means there's going to come a point in time where my doggone beneficiary is not going to be my beneficiary. And so, unfortunately, having that in place, because so many things can happen, and that's secondary because, one, I travel with my mama.
So
And
it
God
can be
forbid,
both at the same time.
we both could go. So then what happens?
Yeah.
And I love some folks in my family more than others. And so in my mind, I know what should happen if it's not my mama.
Mhm.
But I don't want somebody else to choose, because I don't want to call people out in terms of the hierarchy of who I like more. But
Wow.
it might be some of those people that I don't like as much. And I don't want them to get it. Like, I've worked hard for what I've accumulated, and I don't want them to get it. But not only do I not want them to get it, and I tell the story so much, my sister had her stroke at 39. When I tell you my sister had her stroke at 39, not only did she have her stroke at 39, the person who legally could make decisions on her behalf was a husband that she had had less than a year. And so I got to say that with a pause, because somebody like, what the? Yeah. And so nothing wrong with that. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but like, you may not, it may be like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want that person. Or what happens if you were in the midst of a divorce?
And something happens to you, but your spouse gets everything, or gets.
And they like, yeah, pull the plug, because I didn't want to pay no alimony anyway. So,
well, there was a story that I know of a lady really, really successful and one of these network marketing businesses. I'm talking, $50,000 a month. I think she has a stroke or a brain aneurysm or something, laid up in the hospital for 6 months. Husband had no idea what she wanted to do, spent everything, exhausted. By the time she woke up, it was all a mess. He wasn't somebody she could trust. She knew that, but made no other preparations for, and so he bankrupted her. By the time she got out of her situation and woke up and got better, she was bankrupt. So, knowing what you're dealing with, telling the folks what you want to do, but just being involved. And if you don't understand, then bring a third party professional, but get involved in your money. Don't just let them control you.
Now, one thing Jennifer wants us to repeat, number 4.
So mistake number 4 was the 5th big, no will, no estate plan. I'm sorry, number 4 was avoiding it. I apologize, I had to look at my notes. Avoiding it. Mm-hmm.
And that's these difficult conversations of one, I don't have enough, or yeah, I owe a lot of money, but how much? At what rate? What payment? And someone talked about struggling to make the choices. One thing when you're making the choices, and I've had this conversation, this is the world that I've been in forever. And so I had this conversation over and over with my mom. And I'm like, Mama, you better tell me what you got. You better tell me. And especially after my uncle passed and all this insurance just gone. And so after all that, I said, you better tell me what you got. You better tell me what you're paying. I said, because if not, you'll be buried in a shoebox. And see, I can have that conversation with my mom, and not everybody can.
Right.
And it wasn't until, and I've been having this conversation over and over and over. I come home, I'm like, so Mama, what you got? She's like, you trying to kill me? No, I'm trying not to kill myself when something happens to you. And I remember I was flying back and forth. My family is in Georgia. So I'm flying from DC to Atlanta after my sister has this stroke. And my mom kept telling me, everything I got is in the safe deposit box. It's fine. And I always have to talk through the process. Mama, when you die, if your will is in your safe deposit box.
How do I get it?
I now have to go to try and be your executor. Anybody can say, no, it should have been me. It should have been me. It should have been, could have been a cousin, one of my aunts, uncles. My mother is one of 12. So it could be anybody. And they like, no, it should have been me. It should have been me. So now we fight for a year to figure out who's going to be the executor. So then they can go to the bank, and we may or may not know where the key is. And the bank is now going to charge us to drill the lock in the safe deposit box just to open the will. And the will might then say, Rosalind should have been the executor.
All of that. Mm-hmm.
And now her estate, we might have went through all the money fighting to figure out who could get in the safe deposit box. So understand the process that if you died today, does someone know where it is? So even if you die, Black women have the highest number in terms of strokes, and they're typically, we don't have anything in terms of a warning. And so it could be that you died, that you're incapacitated, that you're sick, that you need to be medevac home or whatever. So
no one knows.
Somebody says, all right, April's in the hospital. Now what? Somebody need to know the now what. Oh, wait, you got to go to her house. On the shelf beside her red pumps is a box. And on that box ain't no shoes. It's some documents in it. And that's where we need to go. Or maybe there's a safe in the back of the closet and the code is 235 or whatever. Like, somebody needs to know if then and can readily find this information and not readily access the information too. And most people are just like, throw it in the safe deposit box.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get it. I have a safe every time I travel. My children know where it is. My girlfriend knows where it is. The key is here. All the instructions are in there to make sure that, they know, but no one is really teaching us to make sure that we have those things available for people so that they'll know what to do with us and for us and carry out our wishes. So I think especially in relationships, I mean, we had a difficult conversation today. My boyfriend and I had it was a tense conversation because he was dumping his stuff and I was dumping my stuff. And I was like, whew. At the end, I was like, this was this was tense. And he was like, yeah, but we had to get, I was like, yeah, but this was like, it was pulling teeth a little bit. But now we know what we're dealing with. We have to be that transparent with our family and with our friends, with people who are going to do things for us should something happen to us. So I see that happen more often than not. My mother had a stroke. When my mother was dying, it was, does she want a DNR? I was like, oh my God, how do I don't know, like, Mom. And when she got sick, she said she knows how I am. We've scraped up plenty of pie sale money trying to bury people or cremate people in my family. And so she knew how I was. And she said, I don't have much, but at least it won't stress you out. Because my thing is, I don't want to be pleased. I got to deal with you and figure out how to pay for you. This is not fair. And so she did have something allowance, but even after then, she died. We had a will. We still had to go to probate for me to touch her home. So having those documents doesn't prevent some things, but at least lets everybody know what they wanted, what you wanted. And that's so important. It just, and even if they don't like you, it just removes the ambiguity. It just removes it all. So yeah, it's very important.
And then Jocelyn talks about she's in the state of Kentucky. And so your spouse has to remain on the will. And I'll tell you, I work in the retirement space. And in a number of states, your spouse has to be the beneficiary of your retirement accounts unless they sign a form. But you know what? People get remarried 10 times and they never change that form. And I tell your first spouse, they gonna say, oh, well, thank you for this check. And so that's one of the things too. But also, it's not just about your will, it's the titling of your assets.
Yes.
Which supersede a will. And so many people are like, oh no, I got the will, but your assets are titled, you got a joint account with your homegirl. Okay, that's her money. Like, if she don't like your man, she don't like your kids. That's her money. Or if you got an account with an ex-boyfriend, and I can't remember the post, someone was saying, well, they removed them from the account. No, people aren't removed from accounts. Accounts have to be closed and a new account open, which means that old person is probably still on the account, which means if you died, whoever is on it is your account. And if you want things to move relatively quickly, your account should be payable on death.
Yeah.
You died, it's mine. All I need is a death certificate to prove it. Death certificate, here's my ID. My name is Rosalind Brown.
Give me the money.
My check. Speed it up, because I don't know how many people have ever buried anyone. And I'll tell you that 2020 was a rough year for my family, between my sister who had a stroke, my grandfather had a stroke and died. And my grandfather was meticulous. Like, when we went through his documents, he had the first mortgage payment from like 60, 70 years ago. And he had the receipt and he wrote what he paid on what day. He was meticulous. But I'll tell you one mistake he made in his estate plan, and he did it in all fairness, but it was a hot ass mess. And as someone who had to step in and help, my grandfather put all of his living children equal parts. And somebody is like, well, why would that be bad? Why wouldn't 50-50 make sense? I don't know why we don't just sell it. I don't know why we would keep it.
We're gonna have all this. Oh my God.
Now my grandfather has been gone since August of last year, and we can't get virtually anything done.
Yep.
Well, that costs too much. Why did you pick that person? Well, you should have called this lawyer. And now the person who's doing the majority of the work doesn't have enough power to get things done. Yep. You have to trust somebody to get things done and do things fairly. So even within the document itself, you don't say the house is equally split between my 3 children. No, there's one child that don't know what the hell. Like,
yeah, I know. I got one. I got one. I wouldn't $5 because I know she going to be we're good.
So you can say something as easy as responsible child will be in charge of the home and distribute assets in the way that they see fit, or in a way that's fair, or they'll distribute assets. So if they decide to rent the house versus sell the house, they'll split the rent equally, or they'll sell the house, opposed to now they doing so much arguing and fussing. And well, she owed me $100 from 2 years. Ma'am, this ain't what we came to fight for real.
Well, that's why my grandmother and mother's house sat in probate for 14 years, because my grandmother had other children and it was equal to all of the children. So no one could agree on what to do with this house. And I'm gonna tell you, I mean, the house was a shoebox. It wasn't like it was a mansion. I'm trying to figure out, like, what did y'all think y'all were gonna get? But it took that long to get them to come to some type of agreement as to what to do with the house. So yeah, one person. The problem though is sometimes parents assign a person that one of those kids that they like the best, but the kids everybody don't get along with. So we had some of that in our family, where there was an executor of my grandfather's estate, and she became very irresponsible and liquidated all the insurance policies of all his kids after he died, because she needed money. So there is, you always run those types of risks, but it is important to make sure your stuff is titled properly. And it's also important to update if there is any change in your situation. You get married, your kids move out, you get a boyfriend, somebody dies. Look at your documents and update them. The will or the estate plan or what may have been good 2 years ago, but right now you're in a different headspace. You bought a home. Now just think about it. Do you want this home, this new home? Who's going to take care of it? You will have to reassess. This is not a one and done situation. You have to reevaluate periodically.
And I'll say, Kyra says she's the responsible child. And definitely that's understandable. And that's a lot of weight on your shoulder too. And so if you are the responsible child, and I will say in the midst of this, especially everything with my grandfather, my aunt is the responsible child, not my daddy. And so my aunt is the responsible child, and the burden on her
is heavy.
Her stress. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, I don't know what they want me to do. And it's like, how much of that can you take as you're trying to do the right thing? Because the first thing is, and I'll tell you, and I don't know how many people have gone through this. I was there when my grandfather died. And so the first thing you got to do is you call a funeral home.
Yeah.
They're going to come pick up the body. So you got to figure out who's going to come pick up the body. Mm-hmm. Typically the next day or the day after that, you go to the funeral home and they're going to want to get paid.
How's that going to go down?
Like, it's business. Like, I'm sorry for your loss. Who got the check? Like,
who's the check?
Exactly. And we were fortunate. I mean, my family is small towns. These people have known my grandfather forever. So he immediately said, we got you. But the reality of it is, if you ain't got no check to write, you ain't planning a funeral. They like, well, so we can put them in this little box. We can put them in a trash bag, but we don't need to get paid. And so if this person has all this money, if the insurance policy isn't there, and typically the undertaker is going to take the insurance policy and collect on your behalf. Yeah. If there is no insurance, and that's the problem too, is because like I said, if they die on a Monday, by Tuesday, Wednesday, you gotta find that insurance policy. Yeah. So if the file cabinet is locked, if it's in the safe deposit box, if it's under the sofa or wherever it is and you can't get to it, somebody got to write a check. Like, somebody gonna have to come up with some money. And it might be the person, you may have wanted your grandfather, your mom, your dad to have the most exquisite funeral, and they might have the insurance money to have it. But ain't nobody got no money today to pay for it. Make it happen. Mm-hmm. And that means they just gonna be in the cheapest. They gonna say, actually, well, you're gonna need to turn to this page when we look at it. No, keep flipping this one. Mm-hmm. And in reality, that's such a disservice, especially if someone has paid and saved, and just because they didn't have things in order,
they couldn't locate it. Yeah. And then, having the conversations with the people too, if we're talking insurance, about the type, because there are some that the funeral home will not take. There are some policies where they will mail the check to the beneficiary and it's not assignable. So you have to make sure of those things too when you're doing that. So again, having those conversations with people. I know it sounds even crazy, like, well, what do you want your service to look like? What do you desire? Do you want this big, massive, presidential funeral, or how do you want things? Because that also is a telltale sign as well as to what you need to do and how much things will cost. I know it sounds crazy and creepy, but we need to have these conversations. We need to be, especially with our parents. If you have parents, I know that they fear, oh, you want their money, or you're going to kill me. No, I want the stress, to have a stress-free situation. It's bad enough that you're dead. It's bad enough that I'm going to have to grieve this. But I don't want to have to grieve this and then have to sell my body to pay for you to get the type of funeral or whatever.
I want to mourn. Yeah, I want to mourn and not be depressed about money. I just want to be able to mourn.
Mourn the loss. And so as having those conversations. So I'm actually going to have a therapist come in with the girls and their mothers and help them pull out how to have these conversations. And look, Mom, I don't want to hurt you. Dad, I'm not trying to get your money. I just want to make sure that I give you the best, the way you have given me the best, if that's the case. So it's very important that we have these conversations. The estate, what does it look like? The will, if you're in a relationship, talking about that stuff before. I have so many relationships where I have women go, oh, me and my husband, we don't talk about money. Me and my husband, we don't, he got his and I got mine and we don't talk. And that might work for you, right? Because it keeps the peace, but let one of you get sick. Let somebody drop dead. Then what? So you should be communicating about these things. And if you can't as a couple, then to me, I question the relationship. How can you have a relationship with someone where you share everything else, but you guys can't come together and have conversations about this? So I see it more times than I have women come to see me first. They're too scared maybe to let their significant other know where they are financially. They may be getting into a relationship and too nervous to share. If you are, then you might need to question that. And I'm not a therapist. I'm not, but I just see it down the line. Then you come in and you're divorcing someone, and now I got to help you find this money or try to help you prevent him from taking everything from you by getting some folks on my team, to attorneys and CPAs and forensic accountants and all that stuff on board, so that we could protect what you have. But if we did it on the front end, we wouldn't have some of these issues.
And that goes back to the thing. I know some people are like, get your little account on the side. Well, if you get a divorce and they say, hand us a personal financial statement, you better not leave that hidden stash on the side. You better disclose.
Because they'll come for you. Those forensic accountants will find your money.
And so if you really want to hide it on the front end. So you can have your trust account set up. You can do a number of different things that you can protect it. But that secret account, if things go sour, that secret account ain't secret.
No. It's not. Nope. It's coming right to the forefront. And now
Marie does ask. She said, "Is there some kind of list of things you should have in your binder?" We may have to put that together and drop that in. Just some basic things. Yeah. I mean, we named off a few things like those power of attorney, the will. I will say one thing that people don't necessarily think of, and of course, my sister I'm like, I need to redo my estate plan. And one of the things the attorney mentioned is she said, all your social media accounts. And I was like, what do you want to happen? Because if I'm dead, do I want y'all commenting on
my page and tagging post?
Do I want to keep coming up in the memories? Some people might not know I'm dead and they still like, happy birthday, wise one. Like my mama might not necessarily
I didn't think of that. I didn't. But now that I think about my mother, yes, her social media is still up there. And I have this relative that keeps bringing it alive. I just want to smack her.
And that's the thing. You may want the account to just sit dormant where you can't comment, but you might want to go back and see the post. Like my mom posts a whole bunch. Like if you ever comment on anything I've done, you are probably my mama's Facebook friend now. Like, period. And so if that's the case, you may just want your account to be dormant where people can go back, they can search your name, they can look at all these photos, but they can't comment. Because you might not, it might be somebody that's like, oh, you look good in that dress. And you like, but she did. Like,
yeah, please don't do that. It brings
so, like, that was something that I didn't necessarily think
I didn't think of that either, but now that you mention it, I struggle with it too. And I think one of the things that I tell ladies in this legacy box is passwords. So passwords are very huge to accounts. I'm talking about passwords to the computer at the house. I have a client right now whose husband died really quickly. It was like 90 days cancer and he's gone. She cannot get into the family computer. Her and the kids are still typing and playing and trying to figure out what he would use so that they can access the family computer to find out information he may have on there. So bank account passwords, the usernames and passwords to different accounts that you may have. You know, I keep them. My children know exactly where they are. All of those passwords are going to be extremely important. The bank, those 4-digit PIN codes to different accounts. If the utilities, the login for the mortgage payments and the Comcast, well, your cable bill or whatever you have. If something happens to you, those people have to keep keeper security. Yes, password keeper. But honestly, I know this sounds crazy. A regular fireproof safe deposit box that I keep in my closet has those on it. And so there are forms that I have in there: utility, name, password, utility, my house payment, how to get into the mortgage statements, what those things are. Yes, there is an app. Yep, I know the password. But the thing is, they've got to get into the app, which is on your phone. So they need to know your phone passwords. So those things, this lady
you don't want them putting your phone over you on the casket. Like, let me get the facial recognition. Like, don't close the casket yet. I gotta unlock this phone. Like that might be too much, and you don't want your family to have to do that.
Yeah. So I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm a little old-fashioned with that. Just because I had this client come and I'm still working with her. She has $1.5 million, $1.5 million, and she couldn't get to the passwords for the bank to do the online banking and all that for the accounts. So those things I just have written down, and I have it in a metal box, safe box that I keep in my closet along with my estate plan. You do have to remember to keep it updated. So if nothing else, yes, the password keeper is great. That app is great, just making sure your children or people know how to access the technology.
Now, Quintel asks, how often should you consider to do an overview?
Of your anytime there's a change in your life. So if there is some sort of change in your life, job change, relationship change, kids move out change, any change in your life that's pretty significant, then you should look at redoing things, especially
a lot more money change.
Yeah, I got this new big old job now, and I might need to make some adjustments. I bought a new house, I downsized. Heck, I bought a new car. Any change in your life, you just need to go back and review what you have, and yes, update it if necessary.
And then someone says, so Ivy says, any recommendations, suggestions on where or how to get an estate plan or will? She's heard of some online free versions. Is that a good place to start?
I don't like them. Now, I will tell you, in my broke days, I lost everything 3 times, right? But when I was broke, Two things I always made sure, just because of my husband just dying like that, was I always made sure I had life insurance, right? I just freaked out. And I always made sure I had an estate plan. So I had a prepaid legal as a service, and they had this, you paid for the service and you got like a free estate plan. So that's where I started. So it depends on where you are financially. It was something. It was better than nothing. I was able to put together like a healthcare power, a living will, the surrogate documents, and the will itself. And so I did that through there. So, and that required a monthly fee for a while, but it got me started. But honestly, an estate planning attorney in your state or in the state where your primary residence is what you need to hire. And I know, it's just expensive. It can be. $2,000 is the average here that my clients pay for an estate plan. But I say $2,000 is a drop in the bucket as opposed to what you can be exposing yourself to. So you're an attorney in your area would be a great way to do it. I know Florida, I have a state plan for Florida. One thing too is if you have a financial advisor in your state and you're working with them, they should be able or have within their network an estate planner. And if you don't, then I'll be more than happy to connect with you on that. But definitely go either through your financial advisor for some recommendations. And you can go to the Bar Association. They have local chapters in your state. But if you're broke, the prepaid legal is a way to have something. And then as things get better, an attorney is way better because they can put things in a trust. They have different ways. Everybody's situation is different. I'm giving you those 4 basic documents, but it may be that you need to put things in a trust, or some things may not need to be in there. For some of you who have children and they may not be as responsible, and you've got a $1 million life insurance policy and you have all these assets, you may want to put stipulations on them. Like, hey, when you graduate college, you can get 1/3 of this. And so an attorney can help you draft that a lot better. So that's why I say attorneys.
And I often talk about the team, like having your team, your advisor, having your attorney, and make sure that the team is talking, because somebody might tell you to get life insurance and the beneficiary is your 6-year-old child.
Oh, no.
6-year-old child is getting $1 million. I don't even really do kids, but I might be in the court like, I
got you. Come live with me, baby.
He loved me, and that's what his mama would have wanted. And then Ray might have to go to his grandma's house while I spend this insurance money. Like, you don't want that to happen. And so oftentimes people are like, oh no, my kids, but your kids. And I worked for banks for years, and we would get this report every morning, and it's called a significant balance change report. So that means anybody whose home branch is this branch, it would say your balance went up $250,000, your balance went up $1 million. So we'd be like, oh, new money, call new money. And so sometimes we would call and somebody just got some inheritance money, and we could see, this is when I was working at Atlantic, but we'd be seeing like, yeah, this club, that club, they bought drinks for it. I should have been at the club with them. Like $2,000. This place, they had the Louis store, they had Gucci. We're like, this money is not gonna last. And then what they gonna do? Like, your life savings was just spent on some randoms in some clubs, some bars, and so forth. And so if you want to protect that, that's important as well. And it even goes back to, you left your ex and now he got your kids and your money. He like, but her mama keep the kids and I can still keep the money.
Do what I want to do. Yeah. Well, another client situation. Husband dies. He didn't change the beneficiary on the policy. He left it for his son. He had remarried during that time. And the son, who was like 10 years old, gets all this money. And now the mother and the mother and the uncle are fighting for custody of the boy because the boy has all this money that they left him. You never, ever, ever leave a minor any sort of funds like that. All of my clients are not allowed to do that when they work with me. You must leave it to a responsible adult, someone you deem responsible for being able to take care of your children and handle that money. And so, yeah, I mean, they will do it. They will blow it in a minute. Got another client the same way, left the son the money. Client is the money is gone. He has nothing to show for it. So absolutely, I totally agree there. Totally agree there. We've got to make sure that happens. So yeah, being transparent, being upfront. I know these topics are difficult, but I know, and as a financial advisor, everyone who wants to learn about investing and all that, but these mistakes are so common, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. We don't negotiate, we don't realize our worth. We leave all this money on the table. Then we're mad because we're not making enough money. We move in and out of the workforce so much as women that we don't get an opportunity to really grow financially in that regard. So we have gaps in our employment there. We don't, so no one teaches us how to negotiate. No one helps you understand your worth. And then because you don't understand it, you just avoid it. You're like, I'm working. They say they'll match me 3% in my 401k. I'll give them 3%. I'll match. Okay, that's it. I'm doing that. I'm contributing, but are you looking at your whole picture? Are you looking, what is it going to take to actually retire? What is that number and how do you get there? Avoiding it just by dumping money into something is not going to help you because your strategies change also. So as you're investing, in your retirement accounts, as you age, your strategy changes. You may become more sensitive to what's going on in the market. And because if you're not meeting with someone and they're not forcing you to look at it, you don't know how to make those adjustments and be able to respond to those changes in how you think, as well as changes in the market. So these things can trickle down on you, these mistakes, and really, really damage you. Not having these conversations with your spouse, and heaven forbid, buying your kids $500 sneakers when all you're doing is contributing, matching in your 401k. You have no other outside investments. So it's extremely important that we really face the fact that these mistakes, although they seem very simple on the surface, they have deep, consequences if you don't start trying to figure out how to prevent them, avoid them, or correct them.
And I'll bring up something too that some people may not be aware of. So sometimes people are like, oh, I got my insurance, I don't need to talk about it. Well, yes. A few years ago, they updated the actuarial tables. So what that means is if you got your insurance, let's say in 2010, and they assume based on your age and when the average person dies that you were going to die at 76. So they gave you a premium assuming that you're going to die at 76, but the new actuarial table say you'll die at 82. Your premiums are actually supposed to come on down.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you went back to market, almost to price it the same way you would car insurance and homeowners and all that. But most people in your everyday life, like I always say, if this ain't your world, like you probably ain't that interested, just like I don't know the, updates on transmissions and all that kind of stuff. If it's not your world and you don't have a partner in this financial planning space,
you won't know.
Nobody told you you're going to keep paying as if you were going to die at 76 versus 82. And it makes a difference in the amount of money that you pay. You can then convert that insurance over. You could have got more insurance. You could have just paid less, but those are options. And so sometimes when people are like, I already got it, I already know, it's like, wait. I have literally been working for financial institutions. Next year, it will be 20 years. I was like, damn, that's for real. The 20 years. And still, every single time somebody reaches out and they're like, I would love to talk to you about it. I'm like, okay, what you got? Like, share something with me. I might get something from you. And I'm like, they doing that now? I didn't know they didn't change the product this way. There's so many changes that continue to happen and things continue to evolve. Never be like, I already know because I already met with somebody. Maybe like
Yeah.
Maybe you can take that idea back to your person and say, can we implement that? And your person might say, we could, but the reason we don't is because of X, Y, and Z. That
Right.
person didn't know all these pieces. And so just to get that additional piece of information, don't be scared of that. So of course, when we talk about reviewing and checking in and knowing that piece, don't be afraid to have that, because it could save you some money. That could be a benefit of just saying, okay, maybe I should review my insurance, review my beneficiaries, see if it makes sense still, see if it's the right type of insurance. They may have a hybrid and it'll do 2 or 3 things. I think we talked about long-term care. There are some life insurance that have a long-term care rider.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to buy 2 policies. Like either I'm gonna die or I might need some long-term care, and I can figure out which one I'm gonna figure out. And then I might have a less of a death benefit, but at least I didn't go broke because I was in this facility. So there's so many different things. So it's always just be open to the conversation.
Well, and I think too, you mentioned it before, and I encourage my folks to do this too, is to have a team. You cannot go at this alone. You don't know it all. You won't know it all. And I don't care if you're listening to whomever you're listening to. You need a team that works specifically for you and for your situation, understands the ins and outs of your situation. So yeah, those things, those insurances, those investments, the estate planning, all of that, you should have a team of people that work with you and that talk to each other and communicate with each other about you. It is all about you and your financial situation. And that I think is so important. People say, oh, to have a team or to have an advisor, they feel like they need to be uber rich, and that's only for the wealthy. And I'm going to tell you, that's how the wealthy became wealthy. Jordan didn't become Jordan because he played basketball in his front yard and he was tall. He was coached. He has a team of people that helped him become the Jordan that he is. So if you want that for your finances, you need to have a team of people that work with you and coach you and help you get to wherever it is you want to go, or stop you from doing the crazy stuff that we tend to do. So I'm a big proponent of that. And I would encourage you, if you do not have a team, get one.
ASAP.
Yeah.
Jacobs brings up something too. She said not only passwords, but things like your airline and your points, because those are not actually an asset.
Yeah.
And so if you have, if you're like me, I travel significantly for my job prior to COVID, especially, and travel a lot just on my own. And so I have a decent amount of points. Well, if my mama call and say, oh, she dead now, they're gonna be like, yep, go on by. I have instructions before you call them. Move this over. You can get your little trip too. And so those kind of instructions, because all those points you accumulating, and I know there's people probably that hoard some points, and you got all these points, somebody could be using those, especially kind of as a part of step 1, step 2, what do I do? And don't make people overthink it. Some people, if you're a points guru, and I know we had the credit card conversation and somebody was like, oh, I use this card and this card. Well, all that work you were doing to hustle and get all these points and stuff, send your mama on a trip. Send Rosalind on a trip. Donate to the girl. Don't let those points go to waste, girl.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
Lisa says if she pays $2,000 or so for a estate plan, what's the average cost to update those documents as needed?
Well, usually I would say it's about $500 at the most, or sometimes they allow you to update them at no cost. So if they have all of your documents, and they're minor documents, but I've seen it be about $500, and so to make those adjustments, but your attorney will have that for you. But it's worth it. I don't care. It's worth it. $500 or lose everything.
And it might be something like every 5 years. So every 5 years, $500 just to read through the documents and say, yep, everything still makes sense. Or, oh, wait, you still with him? Because I thought you said y'all got a divorce.
Yeah.
Or, or didn't your brother go to jail or something like that? Like maybe we shouldn't leave it. And those are some of the conversations just simply to have, because it may simply be before you pay the $500, you read the document and say,
I don't need to do
no more.
anything.
Like, yeah, I don't even own that house anymore. So
Right.
you may have house, and you're like, I don't even own that account. Or I move my money from here to here, and I need to make sure people know. So part of the updates might not be an attorney.
It might not be so significant. But then a lot of times attorneys have in there where they can update for no charge. It just depends on the extent of the update. If it requires a lot more time, because they charge by time. But it would be good too, if you're looking for an attorney that doesn't charge by the hour, but charges by the package. So if they're doing a whole estate plan and it includes this, and this, then it's $2,000. It would be better to do it that, unless your finances are extremely complex. But a package estate plan is probably good enough for the average person. And like I said, the updates sometimes are included in there, or it could be about $500.
And we did have Veronica, who spoke a little while ago. I'll be sure to drop the link where she spoke, and she talked a little bit about estate planning. It looks like we might have to have her come back and chat a little bit of it. She's in Georgia, so definitely if anybody is in Georgia, she can help there. And we'll come up with maybe a list of people who have used some people that they enjoy. Sabrina has a great question, and I actually want to do a Money Monday just on this topic. Sabrina says, how do you overcome the feeling that a financial advisor just wants to sell you something? And I really want people to feel enabled. And really and truly, that's why when we talk about your wealth guidance and I talk about feeling enabled and feeling empowered, so then when someone says you need X, we don't follow one line, because what I want to do with my life isn't the same. Right. I mean, April has kids. I don't care about them kids. Right. Like, when we talk about what's going to be next, who owns property, who plans to have a business, who going to take care of your dog when your dog passes, when you pass, or whatever it might be. And so your journey is going to be different. And it's about, do you understand what you're going in there for, so that you can say, this person doesn't understand me. Right. This person doesn't specialize in what I'm looking for. This person is just purely an insurance person, and I'm not necessarily heavy on insurance. Or this person is heavy on maybe annuities, or this person might be heavy on individual stocks. And you're like, I don't want to have to monitor individual stocks. Like, I just want some mutual funds, make it easier. And you need to have a person that makes things easy to understand for you. Because if you leave like, what's your thoughts, April?
No, I agree with all of that. And that is an excellent question, because I'll be honest with you. First of all, financial advising is a business, right? So we do have to understand that it is definitely a business. There's been a lot of conversation in the industry where they're pushing pushing people to make sure that they're working with fiduciaries. So a fiduciary is someone who is supposed to have your best interest first. And fiduciaries are not necessarily compensated on a commission basis. Okay, they're compensated on what they call fee-based planners, right? Or, commission-based planners, fee-based planners, or just fees. They charge a fee for service. So understanding the way the advisor is structured is going to be important. But also, one of the things I did with my children, I have girls, and I'm a financial advisor, and I made my oldest daughter, she came into a pretty big inheritance, and I made her go interview advisors, go ask questions, the list of questions, just go. And she asked me to come with her. And I said, okay. And then at the time, I was not a financial advisor at all. I'd always been teaching in the space. I teach finance and all that, but I wasn't a licensed financial advisor. And so it really was about what resonated with her. One of her biggest issues was I wanted somebody that was either gonna outlive or live my money with me. She didn't want somebody that was going to die before her. Yeah, right. So that was her biggest thing. It's like, Mom, I know. And at the time, like I said, I taught in the business and I did a lot of workshops and stuff. And I actually just was insurance licensed. And she was like, no offense, Mom, but you're going to die before me. I want somebody that's going to. I was like, hey, no problem. Tell you what, let's pick some advisors and you go check them out and go check them, just vibe them. How do you feel? Ask your questions. Do they teach you? I think that's important. And so we visited 3 advisors and she selected one. And then she asked me to go with her again. I went with her again and I sat there and she had some questions and then I had some questions as well for the advisor and kind of help guide her through that. So I say, interview people. Find 3 people, just like you would if you were having a surgery, major open heart, you would get a second opinion. So if you feel that, then interview them first. The second thing is their philosophy is important. Shameless plug, my philosophy is educate. I'm a former professor. So I educate all day long. My clients text me, they call me anytime for the most part, all the time asking questions. They should be someone that you can ask questions of and they can explain it to you in layman's terms in a way that you can understand it. So if you're chatting it up with your girlfriends at Starbucks or y'all doing a happy hour, you're talking about the portfolio that you are creating or have created with your advisor or whatever goals you may have because you have a good understanding. So that to me is important. Yes, you can be sold different products and there are things that you will need in order to meet your financial goals. So, your advisor may suggest, yes, you can open up a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, or you might need, get some stock dividends and create income that way. If it's a good fit, there are annuities. There's a whole bucket of things that we use to satisfy your financial goals. But if they're coming at you with that first and not really educating you in a way that you feel comfortable, then no. It's because this is a dating. I tell my clients, this is till death do we part. Like, I'm committed to you. Like, we're married, like, for real. Like, I do, you do, I do too. Okay. And then we reassess our relationship. Every time they meet with me, it's not about, you got to get this. Unless there's a gap there, then yeah, I have a responsibility to let you know that. But at the end of the day, it's about you. And if you're not feeling like it's about you and all they care about is a product peddle, then that's not the person for you. And your intuition will guide you, but they need to be educators. For me, my philosophy is educate. I educate, I empower, and I encourage with no judgment. Because a lot of times people come in and they have no clue what they have. I had a client call me up, want to invest in redoing some commercial property and take $100,000 out of a 401k. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not even managing the 401k. Why would I let you do that? I'm supposed to protect you. She got upset with me. No, you can't do that. You can't, not if you only have 136,000 in there. It's not and commercial property right now at this time. So they should really be looking out for your best interests. But yes, at the end of the day, in full transparency, we get paid in 2 primary ways. We get paid commission. So advisors, a lot of financial advisors, they don't do insurance. They don't want to do insurance. They feel like, I don't know, it's yucky or whatever. That's on them. But if they have insurance, they pay a commission based on what they offer you. If they're going to open up investment accounts, they're going to either be paid a commission, which is a sales charge, they'll get that, or they'll be paid a fee based on the assets that they're managing for you. So we got to get paid somehow. Those are typically the ways that we get paid. Then there's the other way is a fee. Clients will come in and they'll say, hey, I've got, $500,000 in my 401k right now. I want to retire at 65. How much do I need to have? Can you create this plan for me? When I retire, I want to travel. I want to do this. Tell me what my plan needs to look like. And when I do those things, well, that's my time, just like an attorney's time. So I charge a fee to create those plans. So, and then if they just want consulting, so if they say, hey, just, I do a lot of debt elimination, and I do a lot of personal finance consulting for my clients, because I think that's so important as a foundation. And so when I do those things, when I'm consulting and helping you get out of debt, when I'm consulting and helping you develop a budget, then I'm paid an hourly rate for that. But I'm very upfront with my clients about how I'm compensated. And everybody knows on the front end, if we're going to work together, then if we do this, then this is the compensation. If we do this, this is the compensation. And I just have to be honest about that's the way it goes. But yeah, I understand you have to interview people. You have to figure out if there's synergy. And I always ask clients or prospective clients, I explain to them my process. I tell them who I am. I tell them how I work. I explain that. And then we determine together if there's synergy. And if there's no synergy, no problem. I'll refer you to somebody else that you think, that may be more synergistic for you. But interviewing somebody is the first step. And knowing that, yes, they're going to offer you things that you will pay for. That's life.
And definitely the relationship piece, somebody that you would want to pick up the phone and have a quick conversation with. Some of our Money Monday hosts have been my clients and we have stayed in contact even when I am no longer with that organization and no longer their advisor. And we have stayed together. We have stayed in contact. We have still text each other and kept in contact. And sometimes they'll say, girl, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, okay, what you got? Like, what is it? Just to kind of talk through something. And in reality, you should be able to have a conversation and talk through. And they're like, I'm thinking of, maybe I might, and if I don't know, because maybe I might do this. And they'll know, and they should learn you over time to know if you got a different idea every weekend, then they probably need to get you back. Yeah. But if you're really like, I want to pivot, I had a client and he had a significant amount of student loans. He was an attorney and he talked about hating the law profession. And we talked about how long to get him out of debt so he could do what his passion was. And really and truly, it was like, how much are you willing to sacrifice in order to kind of get this debt off your back and leave the law profession? Like, that was a big ass investment to find out, oh, I don't even like this. But in reality, there's so many people that are like, I can't ever leave this job because I need the income. Somebody might have to paint you a picture, provide you a path, say, okay, well, if we did this and this, you could make half of what you made, and then you could have more time with your children, or maybe you could have more work-life balance, or whatever it might be. But somebody's going to have to kind of talk you through that. A lot of the ladies, what if you want to retire early? What does that take?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the biggest get rich. Like I said, I was in the financial space and worked for a bank, and I remember when everybody was a real estate investor and everybody was flipping houses, and they like, I'm a house flipper. And then all of a sudden the market fell and they were poor. And then it's like, oh no, now I make millions trading this, and now I do this, and now you don't know this, you don't do this. And it's like, okay. A few people will win, but not everybody, not most people.
And that's the thing, as an advisor, we are advisors. So it's like, and I tell my client, anything you want to do, if you want to buy a car, we need to talk about it. If you want to upgrade or downgrade, we need to, I'm your advisor, your trusted advisor. I have a couple right now, husband quit his job before they became my clients, started his business. Well, it really should have been the wife who started her business, because she's a licensed mental health therapist. She works in a really traumatic setting, branching out on her own, opening her own practice. Right now is like great, right? I mean, it's booming. Who doesn't need a therapist? So they met with me, and I sensed some things and talked with, and I said, well, she's only making 40,000 here. She could make $70,000 on her own. And she was like, yeah, we've been talking about that. We have health insurance. We need health insurance. That's the problem. So I have a network. What do? I connect them with health insurance. They have no debt. So and now in June, what is she doing? She's resigning from her position and she's going to open up her practice. So we're advisors. Those are financial decisions. Those decisions impact their financial life. And I'm their advisor to kind of help them see down the road what's next. And how can we set things up in a way, well, yeah, we've got to have 20 grand sitting here just for emergencies or something happen. We have, 6 months of expenses. We're good. Okay, now we can move in there. So I'm not just there to say, buy this, do this, implement this, buy this stock. Yep, get in crypto, do this. It's your whole life. I'm advising you on how your whole life impacts your financial future. And honestly, if you don't have anybody that's doing that, then you need to interview some people who do that. Because I think that's so important. You need a teammate. And sadly, I know that we have to be paid. And we do get compensated for those things. I don't feel bad about it because I know the value that we offer for those of us who care about our clients. So that's my rant on that. But I understand. I hear it all the time.
I will say that if your financial advisor is doing everything for free, they not. They
Right.
probably you off.
That part. Yep.
People are always like, oh no, we don't pay anything. And I'm like, you probably pay them more than what you would. But yep. Like I said, I'm going to book because so many times people ask that question and they're like, I don't know, I don't like that person. If you don't like them, don't work with them. If they give you a creepy vibe, don't work with them. If they feel pushy, say, let me think about it, and don't work with them. Yeah. Block their number when you walk in the office. If there is something about that conversation that doesn't sit right, if you wouldn't want that person to sit around the dinner table with you at Thanksgiving, maybe if this isn't the person that you would invite your mom to come meet to and say, Mom, I think we should talk about this estate plan. Mom, I want you to know about this. If this is not that person, then this is not the right relationship. And that's fine. Yeah. There's a number of people out there for you to choose from and get some recommendations in terms of what's going to be the best fit. But there are certain things that you should definitely be looking for. And I'll tell you too, sometimes people are like, oh, but do they have this letter behind their name or this letter behind their name? I will say, I used to say sometimes people will run to get those letters because they lack the experience.
Yeah.
Because you can get those letters in a year and somebody else been doing it for 10 years and they practicing all these strategies and you're like, but they got the letters. How do you interview and understand the difference? Do they have the knowledge to really help you versus did they just study for some tests and get some letters? Ain't nothing wrong with those letters. Now, I'm not knocking nobody in their letters, but some people be like, I got this, this, and this, and this. I got a few letters too, but I mean, I remember how long it took me to study the letters and I learned a lot more doing it. Yeah. So, I mean, definitely, and we definitely gonna have a session on that because I'm like, we got to do a better job of interviewing the people that are on our team and making sure that they're on our team and they are fighting for us and not using us for their next paycheck too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I think it's very important. I think synergy is very important. I mean, even myself as an advisor, if I don't have synergy with a client, if they don't seem to fit the philosophies and the values that I have for my practice, we won't work. It just is not going to work. I don't want to waste their time and I don't want my time wasted. And I'll be upfront, like, listen, no, I don't think we're a good fit. Maybe you need to see someone else. So it is, it definitely is worth fighting for to make sure you have someone on your team. It's worth interviewing people, finding out too what your financial philosophy is. I think that's also important. A lot of people come in blind, but what is your philosophy? My goal with my clients, I tell them all the time, is a debt-free retirement. if you feel like you can't get to a stage or we can't work to a debt-free retirement, I'm not the advisor for you. Because who wants their client at 65, 67 buying a new home, now redoing a 30-year mortgage? I've walked clients to bankruptcy attorney's office because they retired and bought a 7 Series BMW only to have a stroke, and now they can't pay for it. So, if you feel like in retirement, you need to be balling out and buying a $500,000 house, and getting into more debt, I'm not the person for you, because I know you'll spend the first 2 years, people in retirement, people spend more than they ever will in their whole retirement. And so now, first 2 years you're traveling and balling out, and then now we got to live the next 28 and figure out how to make that money stretch after you done went crazy. So that's my philosophy. I tell my clients, the prospective clients up front, hey, my values are, debt-free retirement, educate, empower, encourage with no judgment towards a debt-free retirement. And if you feel like you can't control yourself or have me be your accountability partner to help you move in that direction, then I'm not the person to work with. I'm just not going to do it.
Good to go into our closing remarks, because we're gonna have to go deeper into that one, because I think people are like, I don't know, I don't trust none of y'all.
I hear you.
I would say there's a certain amount of stuff you can do on your own, and then you need a professional. I mean, I can handy woman it up around here, and then all of a sudden we get in there and you get shocked with some electricity, or you start the water start leaking from someplace you didn't know that water existed. So there's a certain amount that you get from the handy, I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
I need somebody that does this full time. So I'm all for a partner, but I want to give April the chance to give us a few closing remarks. Thank you so much for your gems that you've shared with us tonight.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be a part of it. No, I don't have anything else to add. Again, get you a team. Take note of those mistakes. And if you see any in your life, just start working on them. Like, don't pass go, don't collect $200. Start working on those things. Get your affairs in order. You will be very proud of yourself when you do. I have a movement. I have my shirt on. And it's called I Am a Financially Confident Woman. So that is my movement to women who work with me, is to make sure that they are financially confident, and educating and empowering them and encouraging them. So go and be a financially confident woman. Start at step 1 and work your way down or up, or whatever you have to do to get the confidence in this thing that you need. And I'll be more than happy to help as a resource or anything that I can do. Thank you so much, Rosalind, for having me. And I pray that everyone found value in this conversation.
Thank you so much. And if you want to chat with April more, her contact information is on the invite itself. So you can catch her on social media. She is in our group too, so you can track her down, get some time on her calendar as well. And as always, I want to thank you for joining. At the end of the day, I want everyone to leave these conversations feeling more empowered than they walked in, hopefully picking up something that they didn't already know, and having a great contact that can help them in their next steps as well. And so next week we have another great speaker. And I'll say next week our speaker is on divorce. And I know some ladies were like, I don't know, I don't want to tell nobody, I might be thinking about it. April talked about having that prenup. And so you might not be thinking about divorce, but maybe you think about marriage.
Yep.
Maybe you think about down the road you want to. And so it's not necessarily simply because you like, I might leave him tomorrow, but simply, do we have our assets in place? Are things the way they should be? Are you prepared that if you have that kind of family where you have children from a previous relationship, they have children from a previous relationship, do you have that kind of setup? And so really and truly, don't be hesitant to click the button and come see us next week. Get those gems, get that information, because y'all might stay together to the end of time, but yet and still, you want to have things set up just in case. Yeah. So please join us next week. I want to thank you again for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening.
All right. Bye now. Thank you.